Good morning, Floss Tube. This is Dena. I'm here for my 14th episode, and I am going to borrow a line from Jessie Marie. I have so much to talk about. I do have quite a bit to share with you today, so grab your stitching, your favorite beverage, and let's sit and visit for a little while. I have 4 new starts to share with you. I have 3 finishes, one of which is a fully finished object, and I'll be sharing some of those in the beginning and then some at the end, because I'm going to have to tell someone if they're watching to stop watching, because otherwise it'll be a spoiler. I want to talk to you a little bit about my WIP progress and also the sales I've been participating in. And just a day or so ago, I recorded Jessie Marie's tag about your behind the scenes tag, so I will be inserting that as part of this video as well. And if that wasn't long enough, I did a book review probably around the 5th or 6th of July to save it to put on this video. So if it's not too terribly long, I'll add that in. But I will do it at the end in case you don't like book reviews. Then you can just skip it and you won't miss out on any of the cross-stitch stuff. So with all of that said, let's get started. Why don't we start first with talking to you about my stitch-alongs, because I think that is part of why I have some of my WIP progress, and it's also one of the reasons I have a new start. And then I'll also talk to you about how I changed my rotation for this month. I realized it was July. Half the year is gone, and I started looking at the future toward Christmas. What were going to be the things that I would want to make for friends and family for Christmas, and how much of it have I gotten done? So a very little bit is done. I've made the clown for a friend of mine's mother. I have made a couple of, several actually, pieces for my sister, Stephanie. And I've made a piece for a friend of mine, Cheryl, that I stitch for usually at least once a year. And I'll be showing most of that with you today. And then I was able to use part of those new starts for salves, and I was able to use one of my biggest new starts, my Chatelaine, for a salve as well. So let me just run down these. This is a lady talking with you today who had never done a salve before May 1st. On May 1st, I started 2 things. A Magical May salve for Finish Line, Cross Stitch Finish Line, and Stitch Mania. You know, everybody knows about Stitch Mania. And I did 5 new starts this year for Stitch Mania. Those were my first 2 salves ever. And during Stitch Mania is when Cowgirl Kate and I, hi Kate, if you're watching, hello. We started our Sleeping Beauty together, and Judy Hewlett has joined in with us on that. And I know she's attempted to get her started at least twice that she's told me about. I don't know how she's doing now, but can't wait to hear from her. And then in June, I participated in the Vintage Sale with Cross Stitch Finish Line. And I worked both on my Sleeping Beauty and Firefly Fairies because they were both published in the 90s, and it had to be 1999 or before. And I worked on both of those through that 1st through the 15th of the month. Then July hits. Oh my goodness, I found stitch-alongs everywhere. July 1st through 5th, Finish Line had a Christmas in July, and I worked on my Smoky Mountain Christmas. And some of you that are in that group will have seen pictures as, you know, we post our progress as we go. And then on July 3rd, Cross Stitch and Discuss had their annual Mirabilia sale. They let us continue to join throughout the year, so I joined that for my Sleeping Beauty, and I've been posting some progress there. And they also had a Lavender and Lace sale, which of course is my Firefly Fairies, so that's covering for that sale as well. Now we're starting to get into what I'm seeing are weekly pushes and weekend pushes. And so I've been participating in several of those. So far, 4 of them, 5 5. And then this weekend will be another weekend push. So I'm using those pushes to just work on whatever my whip was going to be for that time anyway. But it's fun because you're more conscious of how much time you're stitching on it, trying to make more progress, so you can have something better to show in your pictures, you know, your before and after pictures. So I'm enjoying those tremendously. But one of the sales that was on July 23rd was with Cross Stitch and Discuss. It was a weekend push, and I decided to work on my most recent start that I started as part of a sale, and it was on July 22nd. That was the Chatelaine support group. It's a specialty stitch sale. So what better way to learn specialty stitches than start a Chatelaine, who of course is full of specialty stitches. So let's get started without further ado. Why don't we start out with one of the new starts, which was for my specialty stitches. This is the Chatelaine, and this is the Alpine Seasons Garden. This picture does not do it justice, I will tell you. If you go online and look at it, it's much bolder. It's quite pretty. And I worked on this for 2 days, and this is where I am with this one. So far, the only different stitch I've hit has been the petite point 1/1, but if you'll notice right here in the trees, it's not a full every single stitch that would total that one square. It's like a checkerboard pattern. So that was new. I hadn't done that one before in that format. But I'm going to be getting out to the specialty stitches soon. This stitch along goes to the end of the year, so I should be able to get out into that area. Tracy P started this the same day with me and has taken off like a shot. And if you haven't seen her pictures where she's already gotten to some of the border around that house, she started higher up than I did in the picture and went for the top of the trees behind the house and went up and got the bird. And now she's doing some of those decorative area around the house, which has the specialty stitches in it. She's leaving those blank for now until she gets there. But hers is beautiful. So we're having fun watching each other and comparing that. So I think that's awesome. Then for Christmas in July, one of the Christmas in July stitch-alongs, I started a new start. It's called Under the Tree. And Vonna, this is all your fault, every bit your fault. Vonna showed this on one of her episodes where she was showing us how to do a flat fold. And I believe this is the one she did for her friend that she had the birthday tea for, if I'm not mistaken. But I may have that confused with another ornament that she made her, but I think this was the one. And this was finished so cutely. And in fact, if you'll notice in the credits on this pattern, it says this was finished by Vonna. So she finished the one in the picture. Anyway, I have a friend who collects Raggedy Ann and Andy collectibles and actually sells them, has a business. She sells them internationally. So I'm always looking for something new, something different that I can do for her collection. She used to cross stitch and can't anymore due to carpal tunnel surgeries, and so she appreciates it when she gets stitching because she loves it and can't do it any longer. And if it's Raggedy Ann, all the better. So I started this on Belfast Raw linen. It's 32 count, and I also finished it. So here it is. I made just a couple of changes to it from the original pattern. In the pattern, this white popcorn garland does not come out even. It actually comes up, if you'll notice here, it comes up higher, kind of goes off center here, and my I must have a little touch of OCD that didn't set well with me, so I changed it just slightly so that it would come out even and be hanging off that bottom of that end branch, just like the starting point. And I think that was the only change that I made. Oh, and the year. Sorry, I knew there was one more. The pattern has 2010, and so I just put it the year I'm going to be giving it to my friend. So now I have to go watch Vonna's video again and figure out how to do the flat fold. The other thing, I don't know if you can see it. I hope you can. Maybe so. To put my initials on this piece, I made a tag off the gift, a gift tag, and just put my initials in there. I thought that was kind of a sneaky way to put them in and not have them be obtrusive. So that is a start and a finish in July. Okay, we'll save the other new starts to the end because they're all gifts to the same person, and I'll have to tell them to not watch unless they want to be shocked. Okay, so I guess it's time for whip updates. In case you haven't been in the same groups that I've been stitching these stitch-alongs with, let me give you an update on Sleeping Beauty. This is what she'll look like when she's done. And this time I was able to, I had a goal to finish her hair, and I have finished her hair. I'm doing her skin 1/1, so I finished that top arm and started the sleeve of her dress, and also came on down and did a little more of the bedding beneath her head. And my next goal probably will be to continue on over the top. You can see I've started going that way to try to get more of these flowers and the pretties that are hanging down from the top there. I'd like to go ahead and get the top of that all the way across, just so I can, as I work my way down, I can be working my way down through the whole piece. But enjoying this one immensely. It's just lovely, and every time I start working on it, I'm happy. I'm really having a great time with it. So we'll be working on that again in the month of August for when it comes up in my rotation. Okay, another piece that's been a whip for just a little while, you may recall, is Beach Babies. It's this Dimension kit, and it's just really precious, these little girls. And I had set myself the goal in the month of July to finish the little girl that I had gotten most of it done. And that's this first little girl of the 3. And I met that goal. There she is with her little hat. I also came on down in here and started filling in all the grasses and the rest of the boards that are the fence. And I've almost gotten that bottom corner done all the way down to her feet. So my goal for next month would probably be to finish this all the way to the bottom and come across so that I've got this whole section completed top to bottom. And hopefully I can get some work on that in the month of August. So that brings me to my Christmas whip I've been working on, the Smoky Mountain Christmas. This one is just beautiful. It can drive you crazy. It has the most confetti in here. Lots of confetti, lots of color changes. A few stitches in one color and then change. And then up here, you get this big blocks of the same color. So regardless of which one you like or don't like, you've got your pick. But I'm into the coat now, and it is beautiful. I'm enjoying it so much. So I was able to work on this one for several days. I'm glad I was, because it's quite confetti heavy where I am, and so that takes a little while, you know, to get it done. And I've tried to fold it where I could show you the whole picture at once, so I hope this works out for us. But this is where we are. Smoky Mountain Christmas. Come across there. We're starting the coat. I've now done the back stitching on the puppy and finished the red ribbon and have started on that beautiful quilted coat of Santa's. And so I'm going to continue to work down those columns. I had mentioned last time I was going to kind of cross country across here and get this main Santa picture and then kind of filling up here as I get that done. I've hit a quandary. It calls for whisper thread in here for his beard, and I'm not sure if I should do that whisper thread now or if I should wait to the end to do that. I've not used whisper, thread before. So if any of you could give me a piece of advice on that, I'd appreciate it. Would you wait and do that at the end, or would you go ahead and do it now? I hate not doing it now because I'd hate for him not to have a face. It'd be kind of odd working on him all the way across, and then he has no face. But that's where we are with the Smoky Mountain Christmas. Okay, so I'm going to take a break here and tell you how much fun I had doing Jessie Marie's tag. I just recorded it a couple of days ago, as I said, because I wanted to put it in here, and it would be impossible for me to be taping myself doing my update and show you my setup at the same time. So I'll stop here and we'll insert Jessie Marie's tag. Hi everyone. Question number 1 on the Jessie Marie's tag is about our recording setup. This is mine, very high tech. This is the dining room where I sit and do most of my recordings, and the 2 storage bins that you see there turned upside down on the table, that's where I prop my cell phone to be my camera. Okay, let's continue on, shall we? Question number 2. How did you come up with your channel name? My channel name was something I came up with very quickly because my son was going to teach me how to do this on YouTube and only had a short period of time to work with me. So I just looked at my email name, which I wanted to have something to do with cross stitch when I created it years ago. And I had tried several different combinations to create an email name, cross stitcher, stitcher, all kinds of things that were taken. So I started going through the types of stitches I knew how to do, and when I hit upon half stitch, nobody else had it, so I just took it for my email. So I decided when I did my YouTube channel I'd be consistent, and I was already used to the half stitch as a name, so I kept it for half stitch cross stitch. Question 3. When did you post your first video to YouTube with floss 2 stitching intentions? Well, I had to go back and look. It was January 23rd of 2016. So I've been doing this now 7 months. So this has been a great fun. I never would have dreamed I would have put more than 1 video out there when I started. So it's very addicting. You enjoy visiting with your friends. So I encourage you, if you haven't tried it, to do so. Question 4, what do you use for your videos? This is talking about equipment, and I just use my iPhone, and then we'll go on and talk about the other parts of the process below. Do you record onto video software or directly onto YouTube? I record on my phone, and then I upload it to my computer and through a USB port, and I put it into the movie maker, and that's where I do my editing. And I try to edit as little as possible because it takes a little while. It's a little unwieldy. Then I process it into a YouTube format and upload it to YouTube. Do you edit? I do, a little bit. I use the editor there on my laptop and get it ready for the YouTube format. How many takes are involved in your video, or do you do it in one shot? I'll combine this with tell a funny story at the end because this is my funny story. The first time I tried to do a video, my son was trying to teach me how to do it. And I was very nervous because he was here and he was listening and watching and trying to give me pointers. And I stopped and started over several times. Then I would rehearse trying to get an intro that sounded natural and not rehearsed or not written down. And finally he said, why don't you play with it and, just see what you think. And he left and I took it in one take. So I don't record videos when anyone else is home because I'm just talking with you guys. So that was my funny story. That was my worst taping of all, was my very first one. Question 8. If things go wrong during recording, do you stop, restart, or just post it? It depends. If I'm very, very near the beginning of the recording and I say something completely wrong, I've got the wrong name of the chart, or I've got the wrong person I was referencing that I watched something from, I'll just stop, erase it, and start over. If I've gone on into the video and I make a mistake, I'll either correct it if I catch it, or I'll stop and wait a minute, start over that section because I'll just pull them together in one video. But if it's not terribly wrong, I just leave it. If I stumble over a word or something, I think that's natural. Most of us do that. I don't worry about that so much. My first video, I edited all of that out. My son was trying to teach me to get it perfect, and I very quickly decided I wasn't going to be that much of a perfectionist when it came to the videos, and you don't see hardly any cuts in my videos anymore. Number 9, from setup to uploading, how long does a standard video take? A day. When I set up in the morning to do my video, I have to get out everything I'm going to show or talk about. I put it on my dining room table. I get it in the order that I want to talk about it and set it all up in front of me. Then I will jot down any notes of anything I want to remember to tell you about so that I don't forget, and I just keep those leaning up against the famous little bins that I have now that you all know about. Then once I record, which doesn't take long, my videos are usually around 25 to 30 minutes, then I have to put everything away. So I try to do that while the video is getting into the video software. Editing is usually one of my longer parts if I have a lot of pictures that I need to insert, because the software I use, when you insert a still picture, it inserts it at the end of your video, and you have to manually move that picture with your click and drag all the way to wherever you've cut a space for that picture. And it goes very slowly. So if you've got it near the front of your video, you have to sit and hold your keypad or hold your mouse to drag that picture all the way through your video. And so that tends to add a little time to the editing process. Then I really think the longest part of the whole process is uploading to YouTube and publishing it. And it takes around an hour for me to get those 2 steps done for a 30-minute video. So I would say by the time I've set up and record for 30 minutes, then put it into the system to edit it, then edit it within 30 minutes to an hour, and then you take another 30 minutes to an hour to upload. It takes a better portion of a day. I would say 4 to 5 hours from start to finish. Do you, oh, sorry, I skipped one. 10, what kind of prep do you do? Do you have a script? What kind of organization do you do? Do you have a run through? Do you practice? My very first video or two, I would sit in front of the camera and actually practice a time or two on getting started or what all I wanted to say, because I was so nervous in front of the camera. I don't do that anymore. I feel very comfortable with you guys. You've made me feel very relaxed, and because you're so kind in your comments. so I don't practice in that anymore. I don't have a script. I do have notes, as I said, if there's something I don't want to forget, but I don't have a script. Number 11, do you watch your own videos once published? I watch them when I edit them. And then when they're published, I make sure that they're starting out okay and that you can hear me. And then I don't watch them again. Now, recently, I decided I was beginning to participate in a lot of sales, things I had never done before this year. And I wanted to go back and capture the first few I did so I could start keeping a record in my journal of all the sales I participated in and what pieces I worked on for those sales. Just part of my record keeping for me. So I had to go back and listen to my videos to find the one where I mentioned it's the first time I've ever done a sale, and write it down and get the sale and what piece I was working on out of the video so I could keep my journal complete. And that was interesting, seeing the changes and how I talked through the videos each time. Just sort of how you evolve in your comfort level, I guess. But I found my information, so I've got my journal up to date. Number 12. If you could change, enhance, or improve your videos, would you, and what would you do? I would love to be able to add a beautiful intro and music and have those great screens where you guys put the title of the next segment of your video. Kind of gives you some segue from one to another. I just don't know how to do all that. I think it would enhance the video a lot, but I don't know how. So that's something I guess I'll have to work on. And I covered my funny story when I talked to you about my first recording, so I think I've covered Jessie Marie's tag. And I want to thank you, Jessie Marie. That was a great tag. I'm so impressed with the tags you guys come up with. They're so interesting, and we get to learn so much about each other when we answer them. So keep up the good work, and I will take you back now to the regular video with the updates. All right, well, let's resume our update. As I mentioned earlier, started several things that were gifts, and these gifts are for a friend who watches my channel. So I will say right now, Stephanie, if you're watching, you need to cut this off. You need to stop right here, or you're going to spoil your Christmas. So I love you, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Okay, I hope everyone else stayed. One of the ideas that I try to do each year for my sister is come up with a theme. We give each other 2 or 3 presents, sometimes a few. Depends, you know, if you have several little things or if you get something nice. But I tend to make things for her because Stephanie does not cross stitch, has tried, as I mentioned before, and doesn't seem to have a knack for it. And so she truly adores it when I make things for her. So this year's theme that I've picked for Stephanie is family, because family is very important to her. And as you all know, if you've been watching my channel at all, you'll know that she lost a very important member of her family this year, her puppy, her 12-year puppy. And so I felt like honoring her family would be the thing to do. So I did a couple of things. I decided to make Christmas tree ornaments that each represent a section of her family. And I'm going to show those to you today, even though it's not Christmas. I've almost finished them, and it's one of my new starts and finishes for this month. So now's as good a time as any. We'll have Christmas in July. So the first thing I'll show you was my new start and finish for July. So let me find you the picture, not just the pattern. I'll have to find it here real quick. Here we go. This is the one I chose to do right here. I like that little boy and girl. And I changed the colors completely. None of them are the same. What I did instead is I used the same color palette that I have out of another book where I got all the rest of the ornaments. I ran out of couples. So this is the way it looks with my color combination. Scott is Stephanie's brother and Heather is his wife. And so this represents Scott and Heather. So this is finished, but it's not fully finished. But I'm going to give you a sneak peek and show you the others that are done. This is the one I did on my stitching retreat back in the summer. And this represents her dad. And I have to fully finish it as well. But I did that back in May. And then prior to that, but all during this year, since January, I have done the rest of her family. So I'll show them to you. These are fully finished. And I took fabric left over from a prior year's gifts where I made tree skirts and pot holders and all kinds of placemats and napkins and things like that for Christmas. So this is Mom. I just thought that was precious. This is in honor of Marley. This is a niece, Tori. This represents my friend and her husband, Stephanie and Mel. And the fabric on the back has a little dachshund for their precious Marley. Okay. We have to have her sister and her husband, so Bill and Susan. And their children, Megan, Sarah, and Nicholas. And then her brother's son, Logan, and Megan's girl, her great niece, Elise. So that is what I have done. Now, the only thing I'm trying to decide what to do now is whether or not I have time, with everything else I have going on, to do another one that represent me and my husband, since I'm her adopted sister, and our son. So I might have 2 more of these to make and finish up by Christmas. And I think I may have time. So you may see more of those. But before I forget, let me show you the little brochure that I got all of these out of. Christmas is Love. It's a Leisure Arts design. The artist is Deborah Lambian. Cute, cute, cute. And there's some in here that I did not do. I didn't use everything. But I did use as many of the people as possible. I've done this one before. That was the first thing I ever cross-stitched my sister and gave it to her. So the very first thing I ever did came out of this book for her. And now I'm using it to represent all of her family. So I hope she'll like that. The other thing that I did, in talking with her recently, I asked, because of the theme that I knew I was working on, I asked, what are 5 words that mean family to you? If you could only give me 5 things, what would it be? And she gave them to me in great detail. She's a very deep thinker. And so she gave me a little paragraph about each one. And I took it and boiled it down to the basic concept for each point, and then turned it into a little bit of a poem. And I wrote the poem, and I decided I was going to just stitch it in, straight stitches or a alphabet that I found in one of my pattern books. And I wanted something to help me end it. So I took the bottom of morning prayer that I found. It's from a Stoney Creek Collection, October 2008. Here's the magazine. And I'll show you the piece because it's a fully finished object now. I finished it up. These, the header and topper here, bell pulls, I got from Pat Smith, who is one of our floss tubers, and her husband makes these, and she has a shop online. You can order from her, and I'll put her information below. But I love it, and I've now attached it to this wall hanging. I lined the back in a coordinating fabric, and so I hope that my friend will love this, but I'd like to read it to you. It says, family, unconditional love, faith in God above, values that we share, trust in those who care, honesty in word and deed, kindness shown those in need, fairness when we speak, protection given to the weak, growth in relationships, fun at home and on trips, dependence upon each other, honor given to our mother, respect for individuality. That's what family means to me. So this is a combination of her ideas and some of mine, and me putting that into just a bit of prose that would, rhyme. And then there's the cross stitch at the bottom, just to give it a nice little ending. And this is a hand dyed fabric that I bought while on my retreat. Isn't that pretty? It's showing very true to color, and I hope that she will like this. And Pat, I couldn't be happier with the bell pull top and bottom. It just looks beautiful on this piece, and it was exactly what I was hoping for when I ordered them from you, so it fits perfectly. So that is my update for today. I hope you'll hang around if you're interested in the book review, and if not, you can go ahead and end it now, and you won't have missed anything to do with stitching. But I want to take a moment to thank everybody for spending time with me. I love it when I get to spend time with you guys watching all of your videos. I stitch to you every day, and I just wanted to thank you all for watching. And the last thing I wanted to mention is how excited I was to go to a get-together this past month. We went to Kennesaw, met up there with Organic Granny and Stitch in May, and a couple of other people that you don't get to see, like Gay. She's real. I got to meet her. And also I met a dear lady, Janet, who we're getting to know each other long distance. She lives near where we're going to be moving someday, we hope, when we retire. And so we're trying to get a jump start on getting to know each other, because we might be, fairly close neighbors by then, and we could become stitching buddies. So we're working on that together and excited about it. But I want to tell you, I had the most fun. Most fun. I was there with 6 ladies, and the entire day we stitched. I got there late because of construction on Highway 75, I-75, and it took me a little bit longer to get there than planned. But I was there from 3 till we stitched till about 7:30 that night, and then went to dinner together. And I was so tickled to be with these ladies. We were sharing what we were working on and ideas and what we liked and designers we liked. And we just had, no shortage of conversation during the day. It was very interesting, and everybody was so friendly and warm and accepting. And I didn't feel like I was pushing into a new group. I felt very welcome there. And I want to thank each of you for that. And I also just want to tell you, I was so proud to be a part of that group, because in the entire time we were there was not a negative word said about anybody. Nothing negative was said about anyone's technique or idea or we talked about videos we watched, and we talked about tutorials we'd seen and different things, but there was never a negative comment about anybody or about their techniques. It was all very informative and positive, and I was just so thrilled by that. I just felt so good to be a part of that. And that's a good indication to me of what this community is like, the people that are in it. We're in it because we love it, and we are also very quick to accept each other, and the way you do it is the way you do it, and that's right for you, and so that makes it okay. I really like that it's not a judgment thing, so that makes me more willing to show my things. Things I make aren't perfect. I'm certainly not the beautiful finisher that Vonna is, and I'm gonna have to learn from her on some things, and so I don't have a lot of the techniques that Carolyn Mazzio has, but she shares information and her techniques, and so we'll all become better stitchers just by sharing what we know. So I'm very delighted that I found you guys. Thanks to my son for pointing that out to me a few months back. I went back and I had to look up when my first video was for the tag, for Jessie Marie's tag, and so it was interesting to note that this is my 7th month being on FlossTube. So I'm really tickled that in 7 months' time I'm still excited about it, and I'm still enjoying all of you so much. So till we talk again, happy stitching. Hello again. If you're still with me, then you have elected to stay while I talk to you about the most recent book that I've finished. A lot of cross stitchers I'm seeing are also big readers. I don't know if that's something we have in common across the board, or if there's just a few of us, but I am thoroughly enjoying hearing about what you've been reading and making a list of books I might want to go buy and get at the library. So the latest book I finished, I wanted to share with you. It's from one of my favorite authors, Nora Roberts, and this is called Midnight Bayou. It's not a new book, it's an older book. I picked this up at a Friends of the Library sale. Our library here has a sale about twice a year that they sell books that have been donated to them for the sale to raise money to, of course, keep up the libraries and buy new books and things of that nature. And this was such a steal. I went on the last day of the book sale, and you could get a fairly large paper bag, like a Kroger bag, fill it full to the brim until you had to hold them in to keep them from falling out, and it was $2. So I can't tell you how many pennies, if any, I paid for this book, but it has been an interesting read, and I wanted to share it with you. This is not exactly typical of what I'm used to seeing in Nora Roberts, simply because most of her books have dealt with murder mysteries and with quite a bit of the Irish culture and fairies and things of that nature. This is not that far distant, but it is a bit of a different flavor. This book is set in New Orleans, and so it has a lot of the New Orleans culture in it, has the references to places that are restaurants and streets and things in areas of New Orleans that you might be familiar with if you've ever been there. So that was kind of fun. The main character is an attorney, and he has left his practice to purchase an old estate in New Orleans, or just outside of it. And the estate is run down, and he is going to fix it up. And when he starts all the hard work of refurbishing this home, he begins to experience some very unusual things within his own life. And so he winds up researching the history of the home and finds out that there is a very horrible history involved with the house. There is a murder involved, and one of the unique things about this book is it switches back and forth from history to present. Now, she'll give you a hint at the beginning of the chapter. She'll put the timetable in there, like the date, and let you know that this is in January 2002, or if it's one of the older time frames, she'll put that on the beginning of the chapter and let you know it's in the 1800s. So, I mean, she'll actually have the date there for you, but anyway, it helps you to kind of transition your brain so that you can go back and forth with her. I found the book an easy read. It had a good variety of attributes. It had historical romance. It had a bit of the paranormal in it. It has a modern day romance, and it has a murder mystery. So it's full of a lot of great things. It was, if you've read a lot of Nora Roberts' books, it was a little bit predictable as you're going through it, but it does have a twist in it, and I always like a twist, so that was fun. But I enjoy it, and I recommend it. It's an easy read. It's not too risque or anything like that. It has a minor amount of what you would consider romantic writing, but I thought it was a really nice read, and I enjoyed it, and I recommend it to you. Nora Roberts' Midnight Bayou. You might be able to find it at your library, and I hope you enjoy that. Thanks for watching. Thanks for all my new subscribers and all those who are returning to watch. I appreciate your sweet comments and encouragement.